Good evening. It has been a deadly day on area roads. 2 pedestrians struck and killed in separate incidents,
including in Brampton, where Peel police say a man struck by a vehicle this afternoon has now died. The collision happened just after 2:30 near Royal West and Williams Parkway. The victim was rushed to hospital but later died. The driver involved remained at the scene. The circumstances leading up to the person being struck remain under investigation. And a woman in her 30s was killed after being hit by a truck this morning in Etobicoke.
CTV's John Musselman has those details.
A black and white checkered grocery bag on the road shows where the woman was hit by the truck. It happened around 9 a.m. at the intersection of Islington and Dixon Road. According to police, the 35-year-old victim was in the crosswalk when she was struck by this truck, making a right-hand turn onto Dixon Road.
Officers attended the scene and rendered medical assistance. Sadly, the female was pronounced deceased at the scene.
Police say the 26-year-old driver of the truck remained on the scene and he is cooperating with the investigation. Traffic Services was gathering evidence at the scene and inspecting the truck. This is a busy intersection and police are seeking assistance from the public.
I'm asking anyone who may have been in the area at around 9:02 this morning at Islington and Dixon Road and may have seen anything to please contact police.
The name of the woman who died has not been released. The intersection was closed in all directions for more than 3 hours during the investigation. John Musselman, CTV News.
A pedestrian was seriously injured after being hit by a taxi downtown early this morning. It happened on Queen Street West near Tecumseth just before 1:30. Police say the male victim was rushed to a trauma center but is expected to survive. The driver of the taxi remained at the scene. Roads in the area were closed for several hours but have since reopened. Witnesses are asked to contact police.
They were random attacks. Police say 2 people stabbed at Dufferin Station early last evening were the victims of unprovoked assaults.
And tonight the hunt is on for an 18-year-old suspect. CTV's Mike Walker has been following the story. And Mike, you've obtained video that shows one of the victims being attacked.
That's right, Nathan. That was the second incident. Both of these stabbings happened moments apart. The first one actually inside the subway station. The second one happened right here on Bloor Street West, which was captured in the surveillance footage we're about to show you.
This surveillance video shared with CTV News captures a random attack. A man approaches another man from behind and appears to stab him in the leg. The victim quickly clutches their leg as the suspect runs away.
Last night I go for people screaming.
This store employee who didn't want to be identified says the attack happened right near her business on Bloor Street West near Dufferin just after 4:30 Wednesday afternoon. Police say the victim in the unprovoked attack was a 47-year-old man.
Canada is not like same before. Now it's no safety, honestly.
Moments earlier, police say the same suspect randomly attacked another person, a 33-year-old man, in an underground mezzanine level at Dufferin Station.
In both instances, the suspect approached the victim from behind and attacked them with an edged weapon.
Investigators have released these images of the suspect captured at the subway station, which has helped them identify the suspect as 18-year-old Noah Christopher Chapman of Toronto. Investigators didn't reveal if Chapman is known to police.
The unprovoked element of that makes the public feel unsafe in open spaces or shared spaces. So we want to assure the public that we have identified the suspect and that investigators are working actively to bring them into custody.
Both victims were treated in hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Police confirm they are not known to the suspect.
I just can't get a mental grasp of what is really going on in some people's minds that's provoking them to this type of just random anger.
These 2 violent and random attacks have left some people who live and work in the area on heightened alert.
I have to watch around for my safety.
Why would somebody just stab someone, like minding their own business? Yeah, it's scary. So we always have to watch our backs, after an incident like that.
Based on leads so far, investigators believe it's only a matter of time before the suspect.
Police say the 18-year-old suspect is wanted for 2 counts of aggravated assault and weapons charges. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Also tonight, Toronto's proposed budget for 2026. We dive into the details, including what the spending plan will cost homeowners and how Mayor Chow and her team managed to close the big budget gap.
We have more news in a moment, but first a look at the forecast. Here's a live shot outside. Comfortable tonight. Great if you got any plans outdoors or maybe if you're taking the dog out for a walk. As for tomorrow, the mild weather continues and we expect to hit double digits. Lindsay Morrison has a look at how things are now. Lindsay.
Yeah, Nathan, it's hard to believe that it's going to be perhaps twice as warm tomorrow compared to today. And today was a mild day. We also enjoyed plenty of sunshine with it. It is 4 degrees right now at Pearson Airport, down from about 6 degrees earlier this afternoon. Nice and comfortable, well above seasonal. Winds are light. They're coming out of the east. Overnight tonight, our temperature is going to hold close to where it is right now. And then we're going to climb into the double digits tomorrow. Many areas of the GTA, but we've got wet weather on the way. Here's what that looks like right now on the satellite and radar. We'll talk about how much rain is in the forecast and show you a second system moving in for this weekend coming up. For now, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, city officials say affordability is the key focus of their proposed budget for 2026.
Details of that spending plan were unveiled today, with the mayor defending her decision to endorse a property tax hike of 2.2%. CTV's Natalie Johnson is live at City Hall with more. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, on the heels of a 6.9% increase last year and a 9.5% hike the year before, the 2026 number was unexpectedly low. In an election year, the administration finding efficiencies and drawing from rainy day reserve funds to appeal to taxpayers.
Unveiling her election year budget in one of Toronto's newest libraries. Mayor Olivia Chow touted expanded branch hours as a centerpiece of her spending plan.
My 2026 budget is focused on one thing: making your life more affordable.
After 2 years of hefty hikes, this year Chow is floating a 2.2% residential tax increase, costing the average homeowner about $91 more a year.
People really count every dollar once they see uncertainty happening around them, because you just don't know what tomorrow will bring.
The proposed budget includes a nearly 7% increase to both the police and the TTC, and features a third straight fare freeze and fare capping beginning in September.
If you look at the state of the city's finances when former Mayor John Tory left, the annual amount we had to close was close to $2 billion. And if you look at where we are now, it's half that.
Chow's team is trumpeting savings from a hiring slowdown for non-frontline positions, reduced fuel consumption from an increased EV fleet, and restructuring the Toronto Parking Authority. But closing the budget gap also relies on rainy day reserves to the tune of $323 million.
On the eve of an election, Mayor Chow has finally found some fiscal restraint.
Chow's chief critic on council accusing the mayor of trying to buy the electorate.
This is an election budget that she is bringing forward in an attempt to improve her prospects in the fall with re-election, but Torontonians are going to be on the hook paying for that.
The city's top bureaucrats confirming 2027 won't be easy.
As hard as this budget process was, next year's will be equally challenging.
Our plan is working, but it is not solved.
So can the city afford to keep the tax rate so low?
Absolutely, the city of Toronto can afford this very affordable budget. Why? Because we fixed the fiscal problem. I came in, yep, it was tough.
With the campaign countdown now on, the administration hoping an inflationary increase is right on the money.
Now, that proposed property tax hike is not yet final. The mayor will have a chance to make adjustments to the number before February. The budget then goes to full council for a vote. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. The city of Mississauga is also moving ahead with its 2026 budget process after the plan was published this week.
Despite setbacks and unforeseen challenges, I am proud that our team has been able to reduce the overall budget increase and the city's portion of the property tax bill compared to last year, even as we continue to face inflationary pressures and other rising costs like utilities, fuel, and other services.
The proposed budget would see the city portion of property tax bills go up 1.6%, along with a 3.6% hike from Peel Region. Mayor Carolyn Parrish says the plan includes a pause on non-essential investments to reduce the burden on taxpayers. Community members can weigh in by email, phone, or at budget committee meetings starting next week.
Toronto police say they've identified 2 more suspects in connection with a deadly shooting in the heart of the downtown core. This happened on the morning of November 25th. Police say a man near King and Spadina was approached by a group of males who started shooting at him. He was hit in the leg and fired back, killing an 18-year-old identified as Dylan Adams. 27-year-old Frandy Noel was soon charged with second-degree murder and other offenses. Investigators now say they're searching for 30-year-old Wissem Mohamed Rayam and 26-year-old Stephen Bryce Pierre, both of Montreal. They're wanted on charges including gun possession and accessory after the fact. Police say to call 911 and not approach the suspects. If you see them, they are considered armed and dangerous.
Police say a body found yesterday in a North York park is now being treated as a suspicious death. The discovery was made in Gwendolyn Park, which is in the Yonge and 401 area. Police, paramedics, and firefighters responded to the scene shortly before 2:30 in the afternoon. An autopsy still has to be completed. Anybody with information is asked to contact police.
And take a look at this. A vehicle slid down a boat ramp near Ashbridges Bay last night, submerging into the icy waters of Lake Ontario. Officers say everyone was able to escape the sinking vehicle, and the male driver was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Well, they've certainly been controversial, sparking fears of increased crime. But do supervised consumption sites actually lead to more crime?
Canadian researchers analyzed a decade of Toronto police data to find out whether the fears lined up with the facts. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
A stray bullet from a fight outside a safe consumption site killed mom of 2, Caroline Hubner-Macarat. It's a tragedy that cast a spotlight on crime and public safety near the facility. Since closing nearly 10 months ago, residents have mixed views on crime in the neighborhood.
Yes, there's still issues, as there are ever in the city, but it's night and day. I wouldn't walk in front of there because there was so much business happening that I was worried of the safety of my children.
It was certainly tragic for sure, but crime happens all the time.
What I was worried about was open drug use, and I haven't seen that. What I have seen a lot of is car break-ins in the recent months. So, I don't know, I would say it's been mostly steady.
Now, a new study looks at the association between the sites and some local Toronto crime. Using Toronto police data over 10 years within 400 meters of the sites, researchers tracked assaults, auto thefts, break-and-enters, robberies, thefts over $5,000, bike thefts, and thefts from vehicles.
In general, there was not an immediate increase in localized crime following the implementation of these sites compared to before they were introduced. And in some cases, even there was a decline over time, which is pretty positive findings.
The exception, break-and-enters. When sites opened, there was an immediate increase before declining over about 3 years. And they found increases at some specific sites.
We did see increases in assaults, particularly I think it's in South Riverdale, which is in fact where the incident with the mom occurred. So in some ways, we are corroborating their feelings. We're not dismissing or ignoring them.
The study looked at crime as sites opened across Toronto in 2017. While there are still a handful still operating today, the Ontario government ordered many near schools and daycares to shut in March 2025.
Assuming that the people that use supervised consumption sites are the people committing these crimes. And yet we know that people do break and enters, they steal bikes, they do other kinds of crimes like shoplifting out of survival and necessity. So if we want to tackle, reducing crime rates in these particular areas, we need to tackle the gross inequality that happens in this country and in this city in particular.
The research tapped data publicly available, but couldn't include incidents of needle and syringe discardments, public defecation, or graffiti.
And what I want those folks to take away from this, and I want people to be curious about, is to look at the sites where crime went down. It never spiked and went down from the beginning.
She says there's an opportunity for learning to better integrate sites into communities so it benefits everyone. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Still ahead, crowds march in Minneapolis over the fatal shooting of a woman by an ICE agent. The outcry and the Trump administration's response as the U.S. Vice President defends the actions of the immigration officer. But first, the battle over Ontario Place will now extend to Ottawa.
The Supreme Court announced today it will hear a constitutional challenge over the legislation being used by the province to remake the area, something lower courts declined to do. CTV's Siobhan Morris has more.
With the overhaul of Ontario Place pushing on, a new wrinkle far from the water's edge. The Supreme Court of Canada will hear a constitutional challenge of the Ford government bill that makes the makeover possible.
It eliminates virtually every civil or citizen or business remedy that could be brought against the government.
This comes from a group called Ontario Place Protectors. Their lawyer also argues the 2023 Rebuilding Ontario Place Act is a breach of public trust.
Because it takes away all of the environmental and heritage protections.
Two lower courts declined to dig into this case.
I don't even know why they're going to the Supreme Court. I think it's a bunch of crazy lefties that want to protect one tree or two trees or three birds.
The Premier is excited about a transformed waterfront with a controversial spa and water park, trails, public spaces, a new year-round concert space and parking garage.
We're building the most spectacular destination anywhere in the country, if not North America.
Doug Ford calls these still under wraps designs for a new science center at Ontario Place out of this world, hinting.
And then we have some other plans that we're going to do as well.
Through Bill 5, the government can get around laws that may get in the way of development of things like mines or new highways. Gillespie says the Supreme Court's decision could have far-reaching consequences.
To send a message to governments right across Canada that this type of legislative action isn't permissible.
We don't know exactly when the Supreme Court will hear this case, but Gillespie anticipates it'll be sometime in the next 8 to 10 months. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Meanwhile, the province marked a milestone today in its push to bring passenger train service back to Northern Ontario. The Premier and other officials got a tour this afternoon of a newly received train set for Ontario Northland. It's one of 3 that will operate on a revived Northlander rail service. The line spans 740 kilometers with 16 stops between Toronto and Timmins and a connection to Cochrane. The train was replaced by buses back in 2012. Work has also been underway to reconstruct platforms so rail service can be restored.
The Northlander passenger rail will ensure hardworking families have better access to education, health care, and good-paying jobs. This is a critical component of our government's plan to position Northern Ontario's economy for growth, resilience, and prosperity for generations to come.
Ontario Northland will carry out testing and commissioning work as train sets arrive, with rail service expected to resume on the corridor sometime this year.
And speaking of trains, at today's announcement, Premier Doug Ford said he's hopeful the long overdue Eglinton Crosstown LRT will open next month.
It's been a nightmare. I'm the first to admit it. But the good thing is we're moving forward on all the other transit, subway programs that we have. So, yeah, I'm confident it's going to get going early in February, and we'll be there to support them any way we can.
The 19-kilometer transit line was supposed to open back in 2020, but has been plagued by delays, lawsuits, and safety issues. Metrolinx handed it over to the TTC, which is working to determine the start date for passenger service. Mayor Olivia Chow says an update on the crosstown will be provided at the end of this month. Now, there are calls for Ontario's police watchdog to get to the bottom of any issues within its workplace culture in the wake of alleged comments by a manager about the victim of a police shooting.
Now, CTV's John Woodward reports the victim's family was hoping for answers at a hearing today.
Moses Irhirhi's family still has the photos that show broken glass in the center console of his car.
No, he did not deserve to die.
The photos part of the evidence they're using as they hope to challenge the decision by the SIU not to lay charges in his death in 2022. Surveillance video shows him apparently urinating in a snowbank. A York Regional Police officer drives up, and within moments, Irhirhi flees. His car reverses up the snowbank, the officer hanging out, and then 3 shots are fired. Officers found a gun in a satchel on him.
I'm not saying my stepson was an angel. However, to urinate in a snowbank and to be murdered as a result, justice must be done.
Their case took on a new dimension when CTV News learned it was Erhirhi's case a senior manager at the SIU was referring to when he allegedly said the victim was a black drug dealer who had it coming, as well as other remarks about staff of color, including monkey knows better. The comments at the heart of a dispute at the Ontario Labour Relations Board where the SIU has denied they were said. The board's vice chair was expecting to hear new testimony from another SIU manager. That manager didn't show up, apparently because she was sick, prompting the vice chair to criticize both the complainant and the agency for delay. Employment lawyer Muniza Sheikh said the SIU needs to properly investigate to build confidence among its own workers and the public.
This is an organization that A, is responsible for incredibly important work, B, deals with people who are incredibly vulnerable.
The stakes are high for the agency's credibility, says activist Dave Boswell.
It puts in question any investigation that, that individual or folks that think similarly were involved in.
As for the claimer here, he was a dealer. His stepmom says he did his time in 2018 for a drug-related offense.
He was going straight. Moses registered for school, and he had hopes and dreams of making us proud of him.
His bullet-ridden car was a write-off. Dolores Langer doesn't want her stepson's case to be written off, too. John Woodward, CTV News.
Victims' families are marking the 6-year anniversary of the downing of Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752 over Iran. Commemorations included an event this afternoon in Richmond Hill.
Of the 176 victims, about 44 of those had direct ties to our city. And as a community, we grieve with all of you, not from a distance, but right here as neighbors, friends, and family.
Mayor David West said all 3 levels of government are chipping in to build a permanent memorial to the victims in Richmond Hill's Unity Park. Flight PS 752 was shot down by 2 Iranian missiles just minutes after takeoff on January 8, 2020. Ottawa has vowed to hold the Iranian regime accountable for violations of international law.
In Minneapolis, there's growing outrage after the fatal shooting of a woman in her car by an ICE agent. The Trump administration quick to justify the shooting of the mother of 3, while others strongly disagree. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
ICE go home! ICE go home!
Tensions are high in Minneapolis. Armed, masked ICE officers using pepper spray and what appears to be gas on protesters outside of a federal immigration building.
What did he do?
Demonstrators demanding ICE get out of their city after the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Renee Good, a mother and American citizen.
I watched in absolute horror as I saw a woman who was clearly trying to get away, gunned down.
Homeland Security says Good was blocking ICE agents with her SUV on disturbing video from several angles.
No!
She backs up. Agents shout and grab the door. She drives forward. As the car turns, shots are fired. Even before an investigation, the Trump administration, even the president himself, declared the shooting was justified, telling the New York Times Renee Good had behaved horribly. The vice president quickly blamed the mother, insisting a paid network of far-left radicals are responsible.
What young mother shows up and decides they're going to throw their car in front of ICE officers who are enforcing legitimate law? You've got to be a little brainwashed.
As mostly peaceful crowds marched, state and local officials blasted the Trump administration, saying the FBI has cut them out of the investigation.
People in positions of power have already passed judgment. It feels now that Minnesota has been taken out of the investigation. It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome.
Minnesota's governor again pleaded with the Trump administration to leave his state alone to de-escalate the situation. Instead, the president plans to send another 100 ICE agents in. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
The United States has decided to withdraw from dozens of international organizations, some important, some peripheral.
The Americans complained of mismanagement, calling for the system to be streamlined. CTV senior political correspondent Mike Lecouteur on the decision and reaction.
The Secretary General regrets the announcement by the White House.
While expressing disappointment at the move by the U.S., the UN spokesperson also stressed that funding to a large number of United Nations bodies is mandatory for the United States.
Member states who've who've joined this club have to pay the dues.
The U.S. is the top contributor to the international body's budget, but the UN says Washington currently owes some $1.5 billion. Now, in a memo shared by the White House, the decision to withdraw the U.S. from 66 UN and international organizations came after a review of which ones are thought to be contrary to the interests of the United States. The list includes the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, the Global Counterterrorism Forum, and others, including the International Cotton Advisory Committee and the International Tropical Timber Organization.
The U.S. has been complaining for many years of the mismanagement of a lot of those organizations, the fact that, in fact, there are problems with their objectives, but also how they run.
The former Canadian diplomat points out the U.S. has not stepped away from major organizations like the World Bank and the UN Refugee Agency, but it is a blow to groups that did have American support. In a statement to CTV News, the executive secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change called the move a colossal own goal, adding it can only harm the U.S. economy, jobs, and living standards as wildfires, floods, megastorms, and droughts get rapidly worse.
While the Canadian government hasn't commented on the U.S.'s move, a spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said the value of international organizations lies in upholding shared interests, not national self-interest. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Advisors to U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly met at the White House today with envoys from Denmark and Greenland. At the same time, officials on the island are offering reassurance to residents amid the ongoing threat of an American annexation.
Our premier here in Greenland and all the parties are telling people to calm down. There's no reason to panic. We've seen from many Republicans even, Trump doesn't have, and the Trump administration doesn't have the backing to actually having to go through with any scenario that has to do with military invasion in Greenland.
The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet with representatives of Greenland and Denmark next week. The Americans say the island is crucial to both U.S. and the world's national security. On Tuesday, Canada joined several other countries in defending Greenland's sovereignty.
Venezuela's top lawmaker says a significant number of foreign and domestic prisoners would be freed as a gesture of peace. Opposition politicians have been demanding the release of political prisoners since the U.S. captured Nicolas Maduro. In Washington, the Senate voted to advance a resolution that would bar Donald Trump from taking further military action against Venezuela without congressional approval. The measure must still be passed by the Republican-controlled Senate and would then likely face a veto by the U.S. president.
In Ukraine, crews are working to restore power after Russian attacks in two southeastern regions. There was a near total blackout. Almost 500,000 households in an industrialized region were still without electricity this afternoon. And in another region, power was restored after an outage forced infrastructure to rely on reserves. Earlier in the day, the government said more than 1.7 million homes faced water supply problems. Ukraine's president says Moscow is intent on using wintry weather as a weapon.
A dazzling sight filled the morning sky in western Greenland today. An airport camera about 50 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle caught these northern lights. Apparently, the area gets about 300 clear nights a year, making it one of the best places to see the natural phenomenon. The aurora borealis is caused by charged particles from the sun hitting the Earth's atmosphere.
Coming up, cracking a Canada dry on The Tonight Show. Hollywood is buzzing about the all-Canadian series Heated Rivalry, how the homegrown production has become a breakout export.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, it's shaping up to be another difficult year for restaurants in Canada. 7,000 of them went out of business last year, and as food prices rise and more consumers watch their spending, more closures are expected. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
Well,
it's not a lot of rain in the forecast, maybe 5 to 10 millimeters for us here in Toronto, but you couple that with the melting, and there could be some localized flooding, higher fast-moving rivers, and of course, unstable ice. We are looking to be unsettled at times tomorrow, and then coming up, we're going to talk about this next system for Saturday evening and the type of precipitation we could get. Stay with us. CTV News will be back in 2 minutes.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Canada's restaurant industry is under stress, and with inflation and rising food prices, more diners, pubs, and eateries are closing their doors.
While the sector rebounded after the pandemic, thousands are expected to go out of business this year as more consumers rein in their spending. Here's Pat Foran with a consumer alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. Dining out is becoming a luxury for many families. Some are having difficulty just trying to buy groceries. Many people will still dine out for special occasions, but that may not be enough to keep thousands of restaurants from closing this year.
Yeah, it looks better if you do.
When it comes to spending money in restaurants, more people say they're trying to watch their finances and eat at home.
Definitely, yeah, we have been watching how much we're spending on eating out at restaurants.
I will try to go to fewer restaurants this year, I think, just given the prices.
Prices has gone up a lot.
In the last couple of years, it's been extremely difficult for restaurants in general.
According to a study from Dalhousie University, last year in Canada, 7,000 restaurants closed and went out of business. The university is now projecting another 4,000 restaurants will shut their doors this year. Sylvain Charlebois says consumers are becoming more frugal with their food budgets.
If they do dine out, they'll dine in at home, order in, or get food delivered to avoid the tips, to avoid the expensive bottle of wine and things like that.
Along with rising food prices and inflation, Restaurants Canada also blames increasing costs for rent, insurance, and wages. The group says 41% of restaurants are operating at a loss or barely breaking even, but they're trying to keep their prices low because they know customers are watching their budgets.
There's an affordability challenge for Canadians right now. There's less discretionary spending. So less discretionary spending means pulling back on restaurant spending.
Last year, when there was a 2-month tax break on restaurant meals, prepared foods, snacks, and some alcoholic beverages, restaurants saw an increase in sales of 10%. Restaurant Canada says the tax break should be brought back and made permanent.
Let's remove GST off of food. Why are we taxing food? We just think that is a poor public policy.
Charlebois agrees.
I would say we need to eliminate all taxes on food, no matter where it's consumed.
Another reason restaurant sales are down is Canadians are drinking less, and alcohol sales are a profitable category for the hospitality industry. And Charlebois says some customers are also frustrated with tipping practices. He says many people don't mind tipping in sit-down restaurants, but feel annoyed when asked to tip in fast food outlets when they order at the counter. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that beautiful sunshine today. The mild temperatures, just glorious, and we're really only getting one day of it because then we see the clouds roll in.
It was so special. I actually was able to get a quick walk outside today because we don't know when the snows or sun is going to return.
Yeah, it's true. It was so nice to see it. What a treat to have sun coupled with mild temperatures today. There's more mild weather on the way, but we've also got some rain that's going to move in starting overnight tonight. It'll be with us through a good portion of the day tomorrow. And as I mentioned, it's not a big soaking, but you couple this with those snowbanks that are out there, a whole lot of melting already underway. And this is something that people are being advised to do, and that's to keep snow away from snow drains. Maybe clear away some ice if you can as well. Local officials say that now is the time to ensure that all this water has somewhere to go. Several municipalities in and around the GTA urging residents to keep an eye on catch basins and to check if they're blocked by the snow. Ice or debris could be stopping that water from draining. They also say that ponding or flooding near a storm drain, if that happens, to contact their local municipalities. Also, as a result of that melting, there could be some localized flooding, and any ice that you've already tested out, perhaps on a pond or a lake, you're going to want to double check that in the coming days. It is 3 degrees right now in Toronto. It's 8 degrees still this hour in Windsor. Yesterday we made it to 3, so we were double that today. Average temperature this time of year is -2, so we are already well above that. Record to beat today was 15 degrees. Did not happen, but again, we made it to about 6 for a daytime high, and then we're going to hold at about 3 degrees through the overnight hours tonight. That's well above normal, too. Waking up tomorrow morning, it's going to be mild. It's also going to be rainy, and we do have the risk of some thunder showers in the morning. It's not a guarantee, but the possibility is there. How about 14 degrees tomorrow in Grand Bend, 12 in Brantford, as well as Oakville, 9 tomorrow for you in Whitby. Some communities are going to stay in single-digit territory, but 9 degrees is still pretty mild for this time of year. Here's the satellite and radar. A few rain showers just inching their way now toward extreme southwest Ontario. This is a moisture-laden system. We're mainly going to see rain in southern Ontario as a result of this one. Some snow, though, to the north. It's not our only system that we're going to get, though. Another one is going to move in for the weekend. This is when it really gets going through the overnight hours tonight. You can see that chance of thunderstorms there. 8 a.m. as so many are heading out the door and on the roads, it looks to be unsettled. Cold front swings through for the early afternoon. It's going to become quite windy, and the winds will change from southerly winds to northwesterly. That cools us down and makes way for a colder weekend. And with that, we could see on Saturday late afternoon the possibility of some rain, especially near the shore of Lake Ontario, but maybe a period of freezing rain, and then perhaps a changeover to some snow. And then by Sunday, we've got flurries in the forecast. It's also going to feel a lot more like January. -1 degree for the high Sunday, overnight low -6. We'll warm up slightly into the early part of next week, but look at this cool down once again by about next Wednesday and Thursday. That's the weather for now. Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, providing mental health therapy for students without missing class. North America's first recovery high school opens in Ontario with support from Bell Let's Talk.
With Bell Let's Talk Day approaching, the spotlight is on community health organizations being supported by funding from the initiative.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan visited one of them today.
For a generation of Canadians, Degrassi defined their adolescence, its joys and its struggles. And for one of its stars, Stacey Mistyshin, the show also coincided with a lot of things going on in her life.
I was struggling with eating disorders, anxiety, depression. I had all these issues.
Fast forward, and Mistyshin is now a mental health instructor at Ontario Shores, one of the recipients of this year's grants from the Bell Let's Talk Community Mental Health Fund. The $25,000 will go specifically to a program called Recovery High School.
This is the first program of its kind in North America, and it started right here at Ontario Shores. The goal is simple: help students stay in school while getting the mental health support they need.
Mistyshin says when Degrassi ended, she immersed herself in education about mental and physical well-being.
And physical mental health is so connected, right? So I always knew that I wanted to talk more about mental health, especially after I lost my brother to suicide.
That was in 2010, the same year Bell Let's Talk Day began. That's why Bell Let's Talk Chair Mary Deacon says centres like Ontario Shores are so important. And as she handed over the corporate check, she had 2 particular young people in mind, her 2 brothers, who both died by suicide.
One in particular, Ted, started struggling with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, when he was a very little boy. And that was at a time when there were no effective medications or treatments for obsessive compulsive disorder.
Bell Let's Talk Day this year is on January 21st, and the theme is taking a moment for mental health.
We wanted to build into Bell Let's Talk Day this year the notion of agency and people being empowered. There are things, in spite of what's going on in the world, there are things we can do to improve and support our mental well-being.
And Mistyshin and the staff at Ontario Shores are there to help with that. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
For some people struggling with obesity and diabetes, new weight loss medications like Ozempic and Wegovy offer hope. But a new study reveals how quickly the weight could return. British researchers found that patients who stopped taking what are called GLP-1 drugs put the weight back on 4 times faster than after diet and exercise. Researchers say this is mostly because so much weight is lost in the first place when compared to diet and exercise. The drugs have been found to help people lose between 15 to 20% of their body weight. The study says people who stop taking the drugs gain back about 22 pounds within a year.
There's a buzz about a Canadian hockey drama called Heated Rivalry. The show is shifting the conversation about inclusivity in sports.
And it's become an international sensation in just weeks. CTV's Heather right now on the show's success and cultural significance.
Hudson, welcome to the show, Heated Rivalry.
Hudson Williams sat down on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon last night and cracked a Canada dry. His Heated Rivalry character's beverage of choice, and a reminder of where one of the biggest shows on the planet comes from.
Is it sinking in how big this show is?
No. Showcasing the 2 most talked about prospects in the world.
Heated Rivalry, the breakout show about hockey rivals that develop an off-ice romance, debuted last fall, winning praise for its heartfelt depiction of LGBTQ2S+ relationships and sparking discussions about representation in both TV and sport.
To have this kind of a romance story portrayed inside the context of men's professional hockey at the highest level, I think will have an impact.
The show has exploded in popularity, the talk of group chats and Tinseltown.
You guys made amazing, original shows that everyone couldn't stop talking about until that gay hockey show from Canada came along.
And go ahead, Connor.
The show is an all-Canadian export, based on a book by a Canadian author, set in Canada, filmed in Canada, and produced by Crave, a subsidiary of Bell Media, which also owns CTV. Film critic Richard Krause says Heated Rivalry is an example that Canada can be more than just Hollywood North.
We're not just a production house for Hollywood productions to come here and shoot things. We can generate shows that can find a global audience.
Heated Rivalry has been picked up for a second season. That is the good news for fans. The bad news is that season 2 is not set to be released until next year. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
After the break, standing on business, the Blue Jays re-signed former Gold Glover Dalton Varsho and other key players as they solidify their roster for the upcoming season.
Canadian exports to the U.S. fell in October to the lowest level ever recorded when you exclude the pandemic. B&M Bloomberg's Mirella Fernandez has more.
Canada's overall trade balance went from a surplus in September to a deficit in October. Statistics Canada puts the deficit at $583 million, with Canadians importing more computers, smartphones, and other electronics in October. And that offset gains in unwrought gold Canada exported to countries, excluding the U.S. The trading partners we exported the most to, the UK and the U.S. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up to 72.14. West Texas Intermediate is up $1.77 to 57.76. Western Canadian Select is down $1.62 to 41.43. And the TSX gained back 243 points today, ending the day at 32,378. Those are your business headlines. I'm Mirella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The Blue Jays have avoided arbitration with some fan favorites. Outfielder Dalton Varsho agreed to a deal worth $10.75 million for the upcoming season. Ernie Clement also agreed to a deal worth $4.6 million. He set a Major League playoff record with 30 hits in the Jays' run to the 2025 World Series. The team also reached a one-year deal with catcher Tyler Heineman worth just over $1.2 million. Today marked the deadline for teams to reach deals with players before they enter arbitration. Just ahead, a proposal gone terribly wrong. What should have been the happiest moment ever turns to panic when the ring goes for a ride. Finally, tonight, a marriage proposal is supposed to be unforgettable, but not for this reason.
One groom-to-be popped the question on a suspension bridge in Michigan, but the ring slipped right through his fingers, falling 30 meters below. Trevor Van Camp had been planning to propose to his now fiancée, Danielle Jenkins, for more than a year on a sky bridge at Michigan's Boyne Mountain Resort. When things didn't go according to plan, they searched for the ring for a few hours before going home empty-handed. However, a resort employee came to the rescue using a metal detector to track it down and returned it to the couple. A very happy ending and a proposal they'll surely never forget. I don't know about that.
How did the resort... Well, I think if you're going to do a suspension bridge proposal, you take precautions.
You should.
And who has a metal detector handy?
It just came out of nowhere.
But you know what? That was my son's gift for Christmas this year.
Okay, whether that's real or not, I'm glad that they found the ring before some rain moved in, because Michigan is getting our system right now, and then we're going to get the rain through the overnight hours. So here's one more look at the satellite and radar. It's going to be unsettled into tomorrow as well. Hey, tomorrow's daytime high, 11 degrees. It's going to cool right down, though, Friday night. And then the next 3 days look like this. Pretty unsettled over the weekend with the chance of some freezing rain or even snow into Saturday night. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, thanks for watching and have a great night.